I hand her the hotel key without blinking. She's the last person he expected to walk through that door. I'm Monica, 38, a teacher from Tucson, Arizona. The Grand Solace Hotel lobby smells like lilies and overpolished tile. I sit just left of the concierge desk, facing the elevators, sipping jasmine tea I brought from home, because hotel brews are always bitter. Louise stands in front of me, clutching her purse like it's a ticket to salvation. She thinks her son booked her a surprise spa weekend. That's the story I sold her. Her lipstick is brighter than usual. She's wearing the pearls Stephen gave her last Christmas, he said. They were from both of us, but I never saw a receipt. She's smiling. She always smiles when it costs me something. You're not coming up? She asks, raising one of her penciled brows. No. This is your treat. Stephen wanted it to be just you, remember? I lie so softly it sounds like care. I slip the card into her palm. Room 812, spa menus on the nightstand. Call me if you need anything. She tucks the card away, eyes shining like I finally did something right. She hugs me, and I let her. Her perfume is gardenia. It used to be mine. The elevator dings. She walks in, waves once before the doors close. I don't wave back. I just watch the floor numbers light up. 3, 5, 7, 8, then stop. Behind the front desk, Mr. Troy glances at me once, then pretends not to. He knows what's coming. I briefed him this morning, with a 20 slipped under the room printout. He didn't ask questions. Just nodded and gave me the invoice with Stephen's alias, J. Carter. I fold my hands over my lap and breathe. I can feel the weight of my wedding band, heavy as a shackle, pressing into my finger. I wonder if Louise will knock or use the card. I hope it's the card. Faster that way. A child walks past holding a balloon. The string slips, floats up toward the chandelier. Nobody notices. The camera in the far corner of the ceiling blinks red. I count to 10. Nothing. 15. Still nothing. 25. Then screaming. A short, sharp cry. Not pain, shock. Something breaks. It sounds like porcelain. The elevator lights begin to shift again. Down this time. The number 8 blinks. Then 7. Then 6. A second scream, this one lower, rising at the end like a question. I sip my tea. Room temperature now. The child's balloon bobs against the ceiling, trapped but still trying to rise. I think about the first time I knew Stephen was cheating. I was folding his gym laundry. There was lipstick on the inside collar of a shirt he hadn't worn in weeks. Not mine. Not red. Not accidental. I didn't confront him. I just folded it slower. That was 2 months ago. Enough time to plan a war disguised as grace. The elevator dings. Louise steps out, ghost white under her tan. Her hair is askew. One earring is gone. She stumbles past a potted fern and grabs the desk. There was a woman, she hisses to Mr. Troy. A woman, in that room, half naked. And Stephen. Her eyes search the room until they land on me. What did you... Surprise, I say softly. She shakes her head like she's trying to delete the moment. That can't be his room. I pull the invoice from my purse. Room 812. Guest, J. Carter. Paid with Stephen Ellis's business card. Same room key I handed you. She stares at the paper like it's a foreign language. The elevator dings again. This time it's Stephen. His shirt is half buttoned. His face is red. He looks at me, then at his mother, and says, Mom, wait, it's not, but she slaps him. Not hard. Not theatrical. Just sharp enough to cut the silence in half. A family of tourists nearby stops eating their muffins. Mr. Troy leans over to speak into a walkie, maybe to call security, maybe just to log the drama. The camera blinks red again. She planned this, Stephen says, pointing at me. She set me up. Yes, I say. And you walked right in. She walked into his lie thinking it was a gift from me. A woman in a housekeeping uniform appears behind Stephen. She's holding his shoes. She sees the tension, nods once at me, and walks away. Louise turns toward the doors, shaking. Stephen calls after her, but she keeps walking. What did you do, Monica? He asks me, quieter now. What did you do? I booked a weekend, I say. You picked the room. He stares at me, but I see it now, that flicker of understanding, that he's not just caught, he's ruined. And the worst part? No one's yelling. Just quiet truth blooming like ink in water. The room was never for him, it was for the reckoning he never saw coming. 2 days earlier, I sliced strawberries into a ceramic bowl while Stephen showered, humming like someone without a secret. The light in the kitchen was soft and yellow, the kind that made our granite counters look warm instead of cold. I arranged the fruit carefully, added a sprig of mint, his favorite, and set the bowl beside his coffee mug. Black, no sugar, always 3 sips before he speaks. "You're up early," he said, walking in wearing the same gray shirt he always wears when he's about to lie. I smiled. "Didn't sleep much." He kissed my forehead like routine, not affection, and started scrolling his phone. I knew she'd text him. She always did around 8. "Busy day?" I asked. He nodded, not looking up. "Car show in Mesa. Might be a late one," he said. Late, like it had quotation marks. I just nodded. He thought I believed him. He was wrong. I already had the room booked. I already knew the name he used, J. Carter. I already knew the hotel had a spa package he mentioned last week when he forgot he told me before. He used to be a better liar, but months of routine make sloppy men. And I'd made myself into a woman who watched everything. "I'll stay in tonight," I said. "Catch up on grading." He barely registered it. That's when I knew he wasn't just lying. He was gone somewhere else entirely. The wife he used to kiss like a promise was now a soft chair he passed on the way out. I played dumb so well, I almost believed myself. That night, after he left, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. I wasn't angry. I was surgical. I pulled up the Grand Solace website, typed in the reservation number I'd memorized from his wallet snapshot, and confirmed the stay under J. Carter. Room 812, King Suite, 2 nights, paid with his dealership's company card. I opened a new tab and booked room 814 inches my name. I requested early check-in and no turn-down service. Then I picked up the phone and called Louise. "Hey," I said. "I know Stephen's been distant lately. I was thinking, what if we surprised him? You and I? Like an early birthday thing?" She loved the idea. Louise always wants to feel included, wanted, adored. She thinks it means she raised a man worth loving. "We'll book you a massage. You deserve it." "You're sweet," she said. "Stephen never does things like this anymore." "Maybe he's trying to change," I said. "Let's help him along." The next morning, I called Danny. "Family dinner this weekend?" she asked. "Can't. Spa day with your mom." "Seriously?" "Seriously." Danny paused. She knows my voice better than anyone. "You good? Getting there. Want me to come?" "Not yet." That was the rule. Everyone played their part without knowing they were in a play. By Friday, I had printed the invoice copies and packed my overnight bag. Nothing fancy, just the essentials. Toothbrush, 1 change of clothes, an old paperback I wouldn't read. I stared at my wedding ring for a long time before slipping it off and placing it in a jewelry pouch. Not dramatic, just intentional. I looked in the mirror and rehearsed a smile. The kind that feels like peace to everyone else but burns in your own mouth. When Stephen came home that night, I was already dressed for bed. He kissed my cheek, said he was tired. I asked him how the car show was. He paused. Just for a second. That's all it took. "Crowded," he said. "Lots of Teslas. Sounds nice. You should come next time." "Maybe." We didn't touch that night. He rolled away from me in bed, and I counted every breath until he slept, steady and clueless. In the morning, I made pancakes. Louise arrived around noon, smiling like she'd won something. I played the grateful daughter-in-law. Let her talk about skin creams and spa robes while I double-checked the reservation envelope in my purse. I handed her a gift bag with slippers and a fake itinerary Stephen put together. She believed every word. In the car, she asked if Stephen would be joining us later. I said, "He has plans." She nodded like she understood. She didn't. The hotel was quiet when we arrived. The lobby gleamed like a showroom. I guided her to a chair while I checked in. "Room 814, under Monica Ellis. Also, can you deliver a note to room 812? I handed the envelope over. Mr. Troy blinked once. "Of course," he said. "Will you need anything else?" "Just your discretion." "Understood." He passed me both keys. I slid one into my pocket, handed the other to Louise with a smile. "Enjoy your weekend." She hugged me, told me I was a good wife. I didn't answer. She stepped into the elevator. Her heels echoed against the marble floor. I sat down in the same lobby chair I'd picked out days before, pulled out my tea from my bag, and waited. He packed betrayal into a weekend bag and thought I wouldn't notice the weight. Every part of the plan had moved forward like gears in a clock, and I didn't flinch. I just watched. I waited. And in the quiet hum of the hotel, I imagined what her face would look like when she opened that door. Not Louise's, the other woman, the one who thought she was safe behind a name that wasn't his. I didn't want to see her. I just wanted her to see Louise, to feel the floor drop out from under her. Stephen would say it was cruel, but he'd say it too late. He'd say it after he'd already lost the right to be heard, and by then, the only voice that mattered would be mine. He left me behind months ago. I just finally let him feel it. I used to believe that a man changes in increments, that you catch infidelity in half-truths and hollow anniversaries. But Stephen didn't change gradually. He collapsed in slow motion, the kind you only notice when you're under the rubble. 3 weeks before the hotel, I found a receipt in his car tucked behind the visor. 2 glasses of wine, 1 steak medium rare, 1 risotto. Charged to his business card. Timestamp: Tuesday, 6:47 p.m. Location: not a restaurant we'd ever been to together. He told me he worked late that night. I had cooked chicken piccata and eaten alone at the kitchen island. When he walked in, he kissed my forehead and said, "I'm starving." I watched him microwave the leftovers and I thought, he doesn't even taste the lie anymore. That receipt disappeared by morning. I hadn't moved it. He knew it was missing. I watched him search the car again later that week. That's when I stopped waiting for an apology. I wanted a confession, yes. But more than that, I wanted clarity. I wanted to stop living in a world where I second-guessed every sock, every shifted cologne, every over-explained errand. And so I watched. I took inventory of everything. His gas mileage, the timestamps on his social media, the sudden spike in gym visits despite no visible weight change. I memorized his lies the way I once memorized the color of his eyes under summer sun, green with a gold ring. Now they just looked hollow. The night I truly decided to end it, he came home humming. He hadn't hummed in years. "What's got you smiling?" I asked. "Closed a deal on a Ford F-150, he said. "Big commission." He kissed my cheek like a punctuation mark. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled. "Proud of you." I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to him, listening to his breath, counting the pauses. His phone vibrated twice. He didn't check it. He didn't have to. I already knew who it was. I'd seen her name pop up once, Sierra, just S. I wasn't supposed to see it, but he was careless with mirrors. The next morning, I ironed his favorite shirt, the one with the navy collar and pearl buttons. He liked how it made him look expensive. I packed it in his weekend bag along with a new bottle of cologne, gift-wrapped and sealed. He would think it came from her. It didn't. It came from me. I wanted my fingerprints everywhere. He came into the room, saw the bag on the bed. "You packed for me?" he asked, surprised. "Thought I'd save you time," I said. "Spa weekend with the guys, right?" He grinned. "You're amazing." I nodded, then stepped into the bathroom before the tears came. That was the performance I was proudest of. Not the planning, not the timing, just the silence. The graceful, godless silence of a woman who had nothing left to salvage. Silence isn't weakness, it's a woman sharpening her blade without drawing attention. Later that afternoon, I met Danny at the farmer's market. She asked if Stephen and I were okay. "He's been busy," I said. "Work's demanding." "You've lost weight," she said. "You look tighter." I laughed. "Stress diet. Highly effective." She bought me a bouquet of lilies. I gave her half. She didn't ask questions. That's what sisters are for. They know when not to press. Back home, I placed the lilies in the center of our dining table and lit 2 candles. I set the table for 2, even though I knew he wouldn't make it. When he texted at 6:12 p.m., "Babe, stuck at dealership, don't wait up." I texted back, "Love you." He didn't respond. I blew out the candles and sat alone with the wine I didn't want. Around 8 p.m., I pulled out the file folder where I kept everything. Invoices, reservation, screenshots, hotel maps, even a printed thread of flirtatious messages between him and Sierra that I'd quietly exported from our shared tablet. He forgot it synced. He also forgot that I never stopped watching. I stared at one message. "Can't wait to see you again, baby. That room was perfect." The date was 2 weeks ago. Same hotel, same alias, same pattern. It wasn't a mistake. It was a method. That's when I chose the date. That's when I called Louise. "You're sure it's a surprise?" she asked. "Absolutely," I said. "He'll flip when he sees you." "Oh, honey," she cooed. "He's lucky to have you." I stared at the message on the screen as she said it. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. She continued, "He's always had such a good heart, just a little distracted lately." "Distraction's curable," I said. "Sometimes you just have to snap him back to clarity." She laughed. "Exactly." I ended the call and threw the tablet across the couch. It didn't break. I almost wished it had. There's something about destruction that feels like control. But I wasn't here to destroy, not yet. I was here to orchestrate. I wanted him to feel the fall in real time, to watch the floor vanish beneath him. I didn't want to fight. I wanted a reckoning. He thought I was unraveling. I was just pulling the right thread. Stephen left on Friday morning with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and the kind of half-kiss reserved for someone you want to stay but plan to forget. "Don't wait up," he said. "Might be a long night. Frank's birthday, so things could run late." I nodded, coffee in hand. "Tell Frank I said happy birthday." "Will do." He didn't catch the sarcasm. Frank turned 40 last September. I watched his car pull out of the driveway, taillights blinking in the sunlight. That was the last time Stephen Ellis walked out of our house thinking he was ahead of me. I spent the next hour cleaning, not for him, not for guests, just for the clarity it gave me. There's something ritualistic about wiping a kitchen spotless when your marriage is stained beyond repair. I vacuumed the living room, even fluffed the throw pillows. Then I opened the hallway closet and pulled down the envelope I'd prepared. Hotel reservation confirmations, directions to the Grand Solace, a fake note in Stephen's handwriting that I'd traced from one of his old birthday cards. "Enjoy the weekend. You deserve it." S. Louise had never been good at identifying forgery. She just liked pretty words. I packed her bag with a white robe, slippers, and a copy of Coastal Living she left at our house last month. I even added a voucher for a free mimosa at the hotel bar, printed with the logo from their site. I was thorough. When the doorbell rang at 11:20 a.m., I was already dressed, calm, in control. Louise stood on the porch with a tote bag and a wide grin. "Spa day," she said. "I could get used to this." "You should," I said, handing her the gift bag. "He really wanted you to have a weekend of peace." "Stephen, huh?" "Surprise, surprise. Maybe he's finally growing up." I smiled tightly. We drove in mostly silence. She talked about traffic and how dry her cuticles were, but I barely listened. My mind was busy with logistics. 2 rooms. One for her, room 814. One for Stephen, room 812. Both reserved under names that connected but not directly. I had used her legal name for hers. For his, I kept his alias, J. Carter. I had triple-checked the reservations the night before. Same floor, opposite ends of the hall. A silent trap, waiting to spring. At the hotel, valet took the car while I led Louise inside. The lobby smelled like lemongrass and cedar, a manufactured calm. Mr. Troy stood behind the desk, polished and alert. He recognized me from our earlier coordination. "Welcome to the Grand Solace," he said. "Checking in?" "Yes, Monica Ellis. 2 rooms," he typed for a moment. "Rooms 812 and 814. Spa access has been activated for both. Would you like to deliver a note to the guest in 812 as requested?" "Yes, this envelope." I slid it across the counter. "No rush, just sometime in the next 20 minutes." He gave the briefest nod. "Understood." I turned to Louise, who was admiring a floral arrangement near the fountain. "Ready?" I asked. She clutched her purse and beamed. "Born ready." I handed her the second key card. "Room 814. Your name's on the reservation." Stephen didn't want anything traceable in case someone spoiled the surprise early. She laughed. "He always overthinks. Sweet boy." I resisted the urge to correct her. We stood near the elevator. She adjusted her blouse and touched up her lipstick with a compact mirror. "You're not coming up?" she asked. "I'll meet you in a bit," I said. "Want to confirm the spa schedule?" "Of course." The elevator dinged. She stepped in and waved. "Tell him I said thank you." "Oh," I said. "I think you'll be telling him yourself." The doors slid shut. I walked to the chair I'd chosen hours earlier, sat down, and watched the floor numbers climb. 3, 5, 6, 8. Then nothing. Just stillness. I set my purse on my lap and waited. Mr. Troy reappeared briefly and placed a bottle of sparkling water on the desk near me. No words, just service. The envelope was gone. Delivered. I imagined her inserting the key, the beep of access granted, the door swinging open to Stephen and Sierra mid-laughter or worse. I didn't want graphic revenge. I wanted exposure. Raw. Immediate. From someone he'd never expect. Louise's scream wouldn't come until part 6, but everything that made it possible happened here, in this moment, in this chair, quiet control. And that's what made it perfect. The closer he got to pleasure, the more certain I became of pain but not mine. I looked around the lobby, memorizing every detail. The bellhop tapping his phone, the couple arguing in whispers near the fountain, the soft jazz leaking from hidden speakers. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a stage. I had arranged every light cue, every line of dialogue, every step. The moment she opened that door, the curtain would rise. But until then, I waited, still as a trap set just beyond the light. A child ran past, nearly tripping over my foot. His mother apologized. I smiled gently. No problem. She didn't know what she'd just walked through. I checked the time. Louise had been upstairs for 3 minutes, enough to find the note. Enough to spot a second wine glass, enough to hear the shower or the bed creak or Sierra laugh. I didn't need to imagine the specifics. I just needed to know she saw it. That she would carry the truth back down like a courier of collapse. And Stephen, he'd feel the shift instantly. The way a man does when control evaporates in front of people who once loved him. That was the point. Not rage, not vindication. Illumination. Let the truth be so bright it scorched. Let it burn in their memory, not in my hands. The door I opened wasn't hers, it was the one that trapped them both inside. Louise had been upstairs for nearly 10 minutes. Long enough. Long enough for her to open the door and see the mess Stephen made with his charm and carelessness. Long enough to realize she walked into a lie wrapped in soft music and dim lighting. I imagined her voice sharp, clipped, rising not from betrayal alone but from humiliation. Mothers have a special way of screaming when sons disappoint them. The elevator remained frozen on 8. I didn't need to see it to know. I could feel the heat building, tension thickening in the hotel lobby like mist before a summer storm. Mr. Troy stepped out from behind the desk. "Mrs. Ellis," he said quietly, "would you like me to deliver the minibar list to room 814 as well?" His tone was neutral, but his eyes weren't. They were curious, controlled. He knew what I was doing. And he approved. I gave him a smile I'd been perfecting for months. "No, thank you. I think everything's been delivered." He gave the slightest nod and returned to his station. That's when I spotted Danny walking through the glass doors. She wore jeans, a flowy blouse, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. She hadn't told me she'd come. I should have expected it. My sister never did like being benched. "You're early," I said as she approached. "You didn't think I was missing the finale, did you?" She dropped into the chair beside me, crossed her legs and pulled out her phone. How long has she been up there? 10 minutes. Enough to ruin a day. Enough to ruin a marriage. She raised an eyebrow. "Yours or theirs?" "Both." We sat in silence. Then Danny said, "Do you think she'll scream?" "Eventually." "Do you want her to?" "I want her to know." "And him?" "I want him to listen." Danny scrolled through her messages. "And what happens when they come down?" "That's part 7. She laughed. "You always did write better endings than he did." I glanced at the elevator again, still on 8. The waiting became its own kind of violence. A suspended breath, an unanswered phone call, a slow unraveling of something built too fast. Danny leaned over. "What if she doesn't react?" "She will." "How do you know?" I looked at her. "Because she told me once that if he ever cheated, she'd break something." "You think she meant a vase?" "I think she meant a bond." I opened my purse and checked the envelope one more time, not out of doubt but as ritual. 2 printed invoices. One marked room 812 under J. Carter. The other marked room 814 under Louise Harrison. Both paid with Stephen Ellis's dealership card. Dates aligned. Same check-in time. Same floor. One of them was truth. The other was bait. He thought the alias made him clever. It made him traceable. I slid the envelope back in and zipped the purse. The elevator number finally blinked, moving. 8 to 7, 7 to 6. I sat up straighter. Danny uncrossed her legs. The tension shifted. The air in the lobby thickened. Then, ding! The doors opened. Louise stepped out first. Her hair was wild, blouse tugged out of place, lipstick smudged like she'd tried to wipe her mouth clean. Her hands shook. Behind her, Stephen stumbled out, shirt half-buttoned, panic smeared across his face. And then Sierra appeared, a whisper in heels. Her dress hung off one shoulder. Her eyes scanned the room like a thief caught mid-crime. They looked more like children than criminals. Louise turned toward the desk, arms flailing as she pointed. "I want the manager. I want this on record." Mr. Troy kept his face calm, professional, but his hand reached slowly for the phone. Stephen grabbed Louise's arm. "Mom, stop. Let me explain." She jerked away like he'd burned her. "Explain what? The woman in your bed or the bill with my name on it?" Danny whispered. "Oh," she screamed. "I didn't move. I watched, observed, catalogued." Louise marched toward me, fury and heartbreak twisting her features. "Did you know?" she demanded. "About her?" I stood. "I knew. And you let me walk in there?" "I gave you the key." "Why?" "Because I needed you to see it. I needed someone else to stop believing his version." "He's your husband." "And your son. Truth doesn't care about blood, it cares about witnesses." Stephen tried again. "Monica, please. This isn't what you think." Danny let out a noise between a laugh and a scoff. "Oh, don't do that. Don't insult her intelligence now. That ship has sunk and caught fire." Sierra opened her mouth but said nothing. "Smart." Mr. Troy cleared his throat. "We have cameras in the hallway and lobby. Just so everyone is aware." "Thank you," I said. "We'll need a copy." Louise slumped onto a lobby couch, muttering, "I raised him better than this." Stephen looked at me, his face crumbling. "You set this up." "I gave you space," I said. "You filled it with betrayal. You could have talked to me and said what? That I forgave you again? That I believed you again? You didn't have to bring my mother into it. She brought herself the moment she defended you, without asking questions." He looked around the lobby, at the strangers pretending not to listen, at Mr. Troy watching calmly, at Danny with arms folded, and then back to me. "So what now?" "Now," I said, voice level. "Now you go back upstairs, you pack, you leave the keycard on the nightstand, and when I see you next, it'll be in court." The elevator didn't take him down, but I did. After the storm in the lobby settled into a sullen quiet, I excused myself and walked to the front desk. Mr. Troy, ever composed, slid a white envelope toward me without a word. Inside was the proof I'd waited weeks to hold in my hand, an official copy of the hotel invoice for room 812. I opened it slowly, deliberately, like a verdict. Guest name, J. Carter. Room, 812. Check-in, Friday, 3:15 p.m. Card on file, Ellis Auto Group Corporate Amex. Charges, 2 nights, spa use, bar tab, in-room dining for 2. I let my eyes linger on the line that mattered most. Guest, J. Carter, Stevens alias. He thought that would protect him. But aliases don't erase footprints. They just delay recognition. And delays were over. I folded the invoice and slid it into my purse beside the copy for room 814, Louise's room. Side by side, they told the real story. A lie across the hall from the truth. I turned to find Danny, leaning against a pillar near the concierge desk, watching me like a hawk. "You got it?" she asked. I did. "Everything you need?" "More than enough." "You gonna show him?" I looked past her, toward Stephen, who was seated on a velvet bench near the fountain. His shirt was tucked in now, but the damage wasn't something a mirror could fix. "Not yet," I said. "Let him sit in it for a while." Sierra had disappeared, likely vanished into a ride share or the nearest ladies' room to gather what was left of her dignity. Louise was on the phone with someone, maybe her sister, maybe her pastor. I didn't care. She hadn't spoken to me since the explosion. That was fine. This wasn't about her. It never was. I walked toward Stephen slowly. He looked up, eyes rimmed red, jaw clenched. "Are you proud of this?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I am precise. You didn't have to do all this. You could have just left." "You mean the way you left every time you picked her over me? That's not fair, isn't it?" I reached into my purse, pulled out the invoice, and handed it to him. "Read it." He looked down, scanning. His face paled. "How did you get this?" I asked. "You had no right." "I had every right. My name may not be on that room, but my money paid for it. My life bled for it. My loyalty died in it. It was just a mistake." "No," I said, voice steady. "A mistake is once. A mistake is lipstick on a collar and a weak excuse. This was orchestration. You planned this weekend. You used your company's money, your fake name, your favorite hotel. This was a decision. And I made one too. I didn't expose his lie to shame him. I did it to free myself from needing his apology." He looked around, saw Danny watching us, saw guests pretending not to stare. "You humiliated me. You embarrassed yourself." I corrected. "I just turned on the lights. What do you want?" I leaned closer. "I want my dignity back. I want the truth documented. I want you to lose exactly what you tried to enjoy behind my back. And what is that?" "Comfort." I turned and walked away before he could respond. Back at the desk, Mr. Troy offered me a small smile. "Let me guess," he said quietly. "Everything in order?" "Perfectly," I replied. "Do you keep surveillance footage?" "We archive it for 72 hours. I'll need a copy of the lobby scene from 15 minutes ago." "Understood." He wrote something down. "Shall I have it emailed or placed on a USB?" "USB, and deliver it to room 814, name under Harrison." "Of course." Danny followed me to the elevators. "Is that really necessary?" she asked. "Yes. You already have the invoice, and now I'll have video." "For court?" "For closure." We rode the elevator in silence. Upstairs, I unlocked room 814 and stepped inside. Cool air. Pristine sheets. A room untouched by betrayal. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out the second invoice. Room 814, Louise Harrison. Check-in, 3:15 p.m. Card on file, Monica Ellis. Charges: 1 night. Spa not yet used. No bar tab. No mess. Just a room that was exactly what it claimed to be. Honest. Still. The kind of room I once thought my marriage resembled. Danny sat across from me, watching. "You okay?" "Getting there." "So this is it?" "Almost." "You gonna tell the rest of the family?" "Let the video do that." Cold. "No," I said. "Just finally honest." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. The room filled with a rare kind of silence, the kind that heals instead of haunts. 20 minutes later, Mr. Troy knocked, a silver USB in a small envelope. I thanked him, closed the door, and placed it next to the invoices on the nightstand. Then I picked up the hotel phone and dialed Stephen's room. He answered on the second ring. "Hello?" "Check the nightstand," I said. "Then check your email, and then check your lawyer's number." I hung up. I didn't wait for the explosion, because I'd already walked away from the blast. I left room 814 with the USB in my purse, the invoices stacked neatly beside the untouched mint on the nightstand. Danny stayed behind, said she needed a moment to breathe. I understood. There's a particular gravity that settles over a space when the truth has been laid bare. It sits in the air, heavy and humming, waiting for someone to admit they see it. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Each floor blinked past like slow steps toward something irreversible. In the mirrored panel beside me, I studied my reflection. Calm face, firm jaw, eyes that no longer asked for kindness. I didn't look like a woman in pain. I looked like a woman who finally understood power. The doors opened to the lobby, and all at once, I was in the middle of it. The fallout. Louise stood near the fountain, surrounded by our family. My brother-in-law, Jeff, his wife, Natalie, their teenage daughter scrolling her phone like this was a boring family reunion instead of the collapse of a marriage. My Aunt Millie sat stiffly on the edge of a couch, purse clutched in her lap like a Bible. Even my father-in-law, Harold, had arrived, silent and unreadable beside a pillar. All of them had come. Danny had texted them earlier, just 3 words, "You should come." No details. Just bait. The kind I had given Stephen so many times before. "You're all here," I said, not surprised. Louise turned. Her mascara was smudged, her eyes red. "Why, Monica?" she asked. "Why this way?" I didn't answer immediately. I walked toward the concierge desk. Mr. Troy looked up, wordless. I handed him the USB. "Can you cue the footage?" I asked. "Lobby scene, 15 minutes after 3:15 p.m., room 812. "Certainly." he said, without flinching. He reached beneath the desk, pulled out a small monitor, and plugged the drive in. "It'll take a moment to load." "Behind me," the family murmured, confusion mixed with rising dread. "What is this?" Natalie asked. "What's going on?" "The truth," I said, played back frame by frame. The monitor lit up, static. Then, the hallway on the 8th floor. Camera angle fixed. Door 812 clearly visible. Louise stepping forward, key card in hand. The light turns green. She enters. The door closes. 30 seconds later, it opens. She stumbles out. Sierra's voice trails behind her. Then Stephen appears, shirt unbuttoned. He tries to stop Louise. Fails. Sierra follows. The hallway empties. No commentary. Just the silent footage. Undeniable. A camera has no bias, only memory. Harold stepped closer. "Is that today?" "It's 15 minutes after check-in," I said. "This morning. Room 812, reserved by Stephen under an alias." "Jesus," Jeff muttered. "He used a fake name?" "J. Carter," I confirmed, paid with his business card. "And Louise?" Natalie asked. "Was she involved?" "She was the surprise guest," I said. "He just didn't expect her to be the one opening the door." The screen looped, played again. No sound, just the awkward choreography of guilt and discovery. Stephen appeared at the edge of the lobby, frozen for a second before walking slowly toward us. "This isn't necessary," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "We can handle this privately." "You forfeited privacy," I said, turning. "The moment you used company funds to cheat on me in a hotel room 2 floors below your mother." He looked at his father, then his sister, then back to me. "This is cruel. This is clarity. You're ruining my life. I'm revealing what you did with it." He gestured to the monitor. This is what you want our family to remember?" I nodded, because it's what actually happened. Not your version, not the spin, just truth. Cold and documented. Louise stepped forward, voice hoarse. "You lied to me, Stephen." "Mom, no, you lied to me. You said you'd changed, that you were building something real with Monica, that you were faithful." "I was trying. You failed. Spectacularly." She turned to me. "I didn't know. I swear." "I believe you," I said. "That's why I gave you the key." Stephen looked at his sister. "Danny, don't just stand there." She raised her phone and snapped a picture of the monitor. "Smile," she said. "It's going to court. You're enjoying this." "I'm archiving it," she replied. "For the record." Stephen's voice rose. "You're all acting like I committed murder. You murdered trust," Harold said quietly, "and you did it with no finesse." Everyone fell silent. That hit deeper than yelling ever could. Harold, the man of few words, had spoken. I took a deep breath. "This isn't about shaming you, Stephen. It's about removing the gaslight you lit and left burning. I needed everyone to see what I've been living with, so that when I walk away, no one tells me I overreacted. So you're divorcing me. You divorced me the moment you gave her the room I used to stay in. We can fix this." "No," I interrupted. "You can't fix a floor after you've collapsed the foundation." I turned to Mr. Troy. "Thank you. You've been very professional." He gave a polite nod. "Always, Mrs. Ellis." I picked up my purse, turned to my family, my real one, and said, "Let's go. We have lunch reservations." Danny looped her arm through mine. The rest followed, stunned, quiet, some nodding slowly as if seeing clearly for the first time. Stephen stood alone in the center of the lobby, beneath the chandelier, the monitor behind him still playing the loop of his own undoing. The truth didn't just land, it played on repeat until no one could pretend anymore. Lunch was quiet. Not tense, just settled, like dust after demolition. We sat at a long table near the window of a small cafe Louise used to recommend before everything fractured. The waitress didn't recognize us from the hotel scene, and I was glad. I didn't want to be that woman yet. Not here. Not while sipping ginger tea and pretending food had taste. Danny ordered fries and ate them like she hadn't just witnessed a marriage implode. Harold asked no questions, offered no commentary. He simply buttered a roll and passed it down the table. There was no need to dissect the lobby anymore. It had spoken for itself. "You okay?" Danny asked, sliding a few fries onto my plate. "Better than expected," I replied. "Still surreal, though. It'll keep being surreal until you sign the papers." They're ready. I met with a lawyer last week. She prepped everything. Even the financials? I nodded and reached into my purse. I pulled out a second envelope, thicker than the last, filled with statements, transaction records, and itemized hotel bills. One from 3 months ago, one from last year, both under aliases, both funded by company accounts. The invoices told a longer story than Stephen realized. Evidence doesn't scream, it whispers patterns. "You've been sitting on this?" Danny asked, flipping through. "Since February. You waited for the right moment?" "I waited until I didn't need to doubt myself anymore." "That's a long time to wait." "It was a long marriage." She handed the envelope back. "You're going to win this." "It's not about winning." "Then what is it about?" I looked out the window. "It's about closing a door without leaving any part of myself inside." The waitress brought the check. Danny paid. I didn't argue. Afterward, we walked together to the parking garage. Everyone else had gone home, except for Harold, who lingered at the curb, car idling, hands resting on the steering wheel like he wasn't sure where to go next. "You want a ride?" Danny asked. "I'll walk," I said. "I need air. Text me if you change your mind." She hugged me once, tightly. Then she left. I walked. Past storefronts and crosswalks, past 2 teenagers laughing over bubble tea, past a dog barking at a pigeon like it had insulted his ancestors. The world kept spinning. Somewhere, Stephen probably sat in his car, trying to write a text he'd never send. Somewhere, Sierra was likely deleting photos. Somewhere, the hotel room still smelled like his cologne. I reached the edge of a small park, sat on a bench, and pulled out my phone. I opened the email app and scrolled to a draft labeled, "Evidence, Divorce." Inside was everything. Digital copies of every receipt, every hotel invoice, bank statements showing discrepancies, timestamps proving overlap between business hours and personal indulgence. I clicked send and watched the email disappear into the cloud. My lawyer would handle the rest. I leaned back and looked up at the sky. Blue, wide, unbothered. A mother passed by, pushing a stroller. Her toddler clutched a stuffed bear and offered it to me as she waddled past. I smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart. I've got mine already." The mother smiled back and walked on. Sometimes the softest goodbyes begin long before you speak them. My phone buzzed. A message from Stephen. "Can we talk?" I stared at it, typed nothing, deleted what I almost typed. Then I powered the phone off and slid it into my purse. The bench beneath me was cool, grounding. A gentle reminder that stillness isn't the absence of movement, it's a choice to rest where truth has finally landed. I thought of the years I'd spent editing myself to keep the marriage afloat, shrinking, folding, bending. No more. The evidence I'd gathered wasn't vengeance. It was release. Proof that I hadn't imagined the disconnect. Proof that intuition is a skill, not a flaw. I stood up and walked to the corner, hailed a cab, and gave the driver the address of my sister's condo. I'd be staying there for a few weeks. The divorce would take time. Splitting the assets would sting. There'd be pushback. He'd pretend to be reasonable, then show his fangs when control slipped from his hands. But I was ready. The evidence made me ready. The woman I was before all this would have sobbed through mediation. The woman I was now had already grieved. I stared out the window as the city moved around me, casual, indifferent. The cab stopped at a red light near a billboard advertising a couple's retreat. I almost laughed. The slogan read, "Reconnect where it all began." I whispered to myself, or disconnect, where it finally ends. The light turned green, the car moved forward, and I didn't look back. I didn't lose him, I released him, along with the lies he hoped I'd keep. 2 days after the lobby scene, Stephen showed up at Danny's condo unannounced. I heard the buzzer first 3 short rings, the way delivery drivers press when they're impatient. I was standing barefoot in her kitchen, pouring oat milk into a chipped mug. The rain outside was soft but steady, like the universe was humming under its breath. I pressed the intercom button. "Yes? It's me," he said. No name, just that low, reluctant voice I'd grown up around, then married, then mourned while he was still alive beside me. "You shouldn't be here. I just want 5 minutes." I stared at the receiver. Silence stretched between us. "Please, Monica." Against my better judgment, I buzzed him in. Danny was at work. I didn't have to explain. I just didn't want him coming back later. He knocked once. When I opened the door, he looked worse than I expected. Not broken, but cracked dark circles under his eyes, skin dull, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in his car. "You look tired," I said. "I haven't been sleeping. That makes two of us." He stepped inside, unsure if he should take off his shoes. I didn't offer a chair. He stood in the entryway like a salesman without a pitch. "I'm sorry," he said. The words floated there, weak and weightless. "Not enough," I replied. "I know, but I needed to say it." "Why now?" "Because I saw the video again. I watched my face when she came out of that room, and I didn't recognize myself." "I did," I said. "That's the man who lies and gets caught and still finds a way to ask for mercy." "I'm not asking for mercy." "Then what are you here for?" He looked around, searching for a softer place to land. "You were my best friend. You were mine too." I threw that away. "You did. I don't know how to fix it." "You can't." He finally sat, perching on the armrest of the couch like a student called into the principal's office. "I read the divorce papers. And? It's fair. It's facts. You're not asking for much. I'm asking for everything I earned. Nothing more." He rubbed his hands together. "Louise isn't speaking to me. She will. Mother's always come around," she said. I embarrassed her. "You did." He looked up. "Do you hate me?" "I don't have time to hate you. That's worse." "No. That's peace." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. "I brought this." He handed it to me. Inside was my wedding ring. I hadn't worn it since the night he left for the hotel. "Why?" I asked. "Because it doesn't belong to me anymore. It never did. I thought maybe you'd want to keep it." "To remember you? To remember us." I closed the box. "I don't need metal for that. I have the scars. Some men return not to rebuild, but to leave behind the proof they were here." He stood. "You're really going through with this?" "I already did. I mean, not just the divorce, the public part, the evidence, the family. You think I should have protected your reputation? I think you used to. And look where that got me." He nodded slowly, like a man receiving a diagnosis he suspected but hoped was wrong. "What about Sierra?" I asked. His face tightened. "Gone. Just like that?" "She didn't want the fallout. Or the responsibility. She said I was different with her. You were, because she never expected more. And you did?" "I expected honesty. That was apparently too much." He looked down. "I deserve this. You deserve to live with it. Do you still love me?" The question wasn't a trap. It was a grave. I stood silent for a long moment. Then I said, "I love the idea of who I thought you were. But that man never showed up." He nodded again, took a step toward the door, then paused. "If you ever need anything, I won't." Still, I agreed. He left. The door clicked shut behind him with a finality that needed no lock. I stood there, holding the ring box, staring at the absence he left behind. Then I walked to the kitchen, opened a drawer, and slid it to the very back. Not to hide it, just to be done with it. That night, Danny came home, found me watching an old sitcom rerun with the volume low. She dropped her bag and flopped onto the couch. "He came, didn't he?" "Briefly." "He cry?" "No. You. Not even close." She reached for the remote. "You want to go out this weekend?" "Maybe. Somewhere loud and full of terrible choices?" I smiled. "Let's see how we feel Friday." We sat in silence, the laugh track on the TV punctuating the air like misplaced confetti. Then Danny said, "I'm proud of you." I didn't reply. I just leaned my head on her shoulder and let the silence be its own answer. He came looking for forgiveness but found the woman who no longer needed to offer it. 1 week later, the divorce was filed. Not threatened, not discussed, filed. My attorney submitted the packet first thing Monday morning and called me after lunch to confirm the timestamp. "It's official," she said. "You're on record." I thanked her, not because I was relieved it had been a long time since Stephen and I were real, but because documentation feels like oxygen after years of gaslight. That night, I opened a bottle of red wine I'd been saving since my last birthday. Danny joined me on the balcony, 2 glasses in hand. The city pulsed beneath us, full of sirens, headlights, and strangers making decisions they'd regret by morning. 2 endings, she said, clinking her glass against mine. "To clarity," I corrected. "Even better." We drank in silence. Somewhere below, a group of teenagers were laughing too loudly. It didn't bother me. It made me remember what it was like to feel unbreakable. "He hasn't texted again?" Danny asked. "No. You think he will?" "He knows better." She sipped slowly, considering. "Mom asked if you wanted to come home for the weekend. To the house?" "She said we could grill. She'll make the potato salad you pretend to hate." I smiled. "Tell her I'll come. That'll mean a lot." "To her or to you?" "Both." A few days later, I packed a weekend bag and drove alone, windows down, music up. The sky was clean, clear, the kind of blue you forget exists when your head's been full of fog. At my parents' house, the porch light was already on. Mom hugged me tight. Dad slapped the hood of my car and said, "She runs smooth." "Like her owner," I said. Inside, the kitchen smelled like paprika and basil. The kind of smell that reminds you some things haven't gone bad just because other things have. "I've been watching the news," my mom said while stirring a pot. "I think I saw your hotel." "You probably did." "A scandal? A reset?" My dad didn't say much, just handed me a beer and nodded like we'd spoken a full sentence. We ate under the patio lights. My niece spilled juice on her dress and didn't cry. My uncle told the same joke he always tells. No one laughed, but everyone smiled. After dinner, I walked out to the back garden alone. There was a small swing still hanging from the tree where I used to read as a girl. I sat there, let the breeze push me gently, the kind of movement that doesn't ask you to choose a direction, just to be. My phone buzzed. Not Stephen, not Danny. A message from my lawyer. Received a counter-response. He signed, "No contest." I stared at it. Not with surprise, with certainty. He knew there was nothing left to fight for. The evidence had done its job. The silence after had done more. Sometimes the absence of a battle is the clearest surrender. I forwarded the message to Danny. She sent back a single heart emoji. The one exception I allowed. I lay back on the swing, looking up at the sky, stars blinking through the canopy of leaves, a quiet reminder that even things billions of years old can still shimmer. The next morning, I made coffee for my mom. We sat on the porch, wrapped in old blankets, talking about nothing important. "You look taller," she said suddenly. "That's not possible." I laughed. "I mean in your face, like you're not hunched over anymore. Maybe I was just tired of folding. He really hurt you, didn't he?" "Yes, and you still didn't ruin him." "No, I just told the truth. That's harder sometimes. That's why it works." We sat there until the sun rose. My phone stayed face down on the table. The ring was still in Danny's drawer. The hotel footage stored away with legal documents I'd never need to revisit. Closure isn't an explosion. It's the moment you no longer chase a different ending. I packed that afternoon and drove back to the city, windows down. No music this time, just the road, and the sound of someone finally free of asking if she was overreacting. He signed the end with silence, but I'd already begun again without waiting. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. No gasps, no tears, just fluorescent lights and a judge with tired eyes flipping through paperwork. I sat at the petitioner's table, hands folded, my lawyer beside me, sharp, calm, precise. Stephen sat across the aisle, alone. No attorney, no tie, just a wrinkled shirt and that look he'd worn since the hotel, like someone who'd forgotten what control felt like. The judge cleared her throat. "Mr. Sevend, Ellis, you're here today to respond to the dissolution petition filed by your spouse, Monica Ellis. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "Do you contest any of the claims presented, including the division of assets, documented infidelity, and misuse of corporate funds for personal activities?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, Your Honor. And you understand that by signing this agreement, you forfeit any claim to shared property, including the downtown apartment, the joint business account, and the equity in the Lakeview home." Another pause. Then, "Yes." My lawyer leaned in, whispered, "He's going to let it go. All of it." I nodded once. I already knew. I hadn't come for the drama. I'd come for the signature. "Very well," the judge said. "The court accepts the terms. Divorce finalized as of today. Miss Ellis, you will receive confirmation in the mail within 5 business days." I stood, thanked the court, and turned without looking back. Stephen remained seated. He didn't try to catch my eye. Didn't call after me. That was the closest we'd ever come to closure. Outside, the sun hit hard and sudden. I stood on the courthouse steps, blinking against the light. Danny waited at the bottom, arms crossed, sunglasses on. "Is it done?" she asked. "Signed and sealed." "You want to celebrate or disappear?" "A little of both." We walked together to the curb, where her car was parked illegally, hazard lights blinking like a nervous heartbeat. "Where to?" she asked. "Anywhere with cake." She smiled. "You earned the whole bakery." That afternoon I sat in her kitchen with lemon tart on my fork, rereading the court's stamped order. My name stood alone at the top, Monica Ellis. No and, no verses, just me, free and fully named. The first name I ever owned now stands alone, not as half of something, but as whole. The phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Danny asked, "What's next?" "A new lock on the condo door, a new password on my accounts. A trip, maybe. Somewhere warm, somewhere honest. You gonna change your number?" "Eventually." "And the dealership?" "Already pulled my name from the paperwork. My lawyer handled it." "So you're really done?" I smiled. Done isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's just step one. That night, I returned to my place alone. The keys felt different in my hand, like they belonged. The apartment smelled like fresh paint and lavender. I'd changed the curtains, rearranged the furniture, thrown out every item that felt like a memory pretending to be a possession. I opened the envelope with the finalized documents. The court seal was clear. The signature, crisp. Below it, the itemized list of what was mine, the home, the accounts I'd built, the freedom I'd defended. He hadn't fought. Not because he respected me, but because he finally realized I wouldn't fold this time. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at the dining table. A single light overhead, a silence that wasn't lonely. Just clean. The TV stayed off. The phone stayed silent. No more explanations, no more corrections, just a woman and her evening. I thought of the hotel, of Louise's face when the door opened, of Stephen's when the footage played, of Sierra's vanishing act. None of it haunted me. It all served as proof. I'd built the truth one receipt at a time, and now the only paper I needed was stamped by the state. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, not out of stress, just habit. I watched the light break over the city and felt no panic, no regret, just stillness. Later that day, I dropped off a donation box at a women's shelter. Clothes, makeup, unused gift cards, little luxuries that I no longer wanted but someone else might. The volunteer thanked me with a soft smile. "You don't look like you've been through anything," she said. "Looks are misleading," I replied. "But I'm getting better at matching them to the truth." I left the shelter lighter. Not empty, just less burdened. No ring, no secrets, no scripts. Just a new chapter. Uncoiled and unashamed. The court ended our marriage, but I'd already reclaimed my name, my voice, and the silence I was never meant to endure. A month passed. The city bloomed into late spring, its sidewalks dotted with cafe chairs and petals from overgrown trees. Life no longer felt heavy, it just felt wide. My mornings started with walks, no destination, just sneakers on pavement and coffee in hand. I stopped checking for his name in my inbox. I stopped rehearsing responses I'd never need. I started filling the silence with things that didn't ask for forgiveness. Audiobooks, playlists, new recipes. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, told me healing doesn't always look like growth. Sometimes it's just the absence of bruises. She asked, "Do you miss him?" I said, "I miss who I thought I married." She nodded. "That's grief, not regret." I told her about the ring box still tucked in Danny's drawer, about the invoices stored on an old hard drive I hadn't thrown out yet. She said, "It's okay to keep the file. Just don't open it to remember pain." I liked that. Pain doesn't deserve a pedestal. One afternoon, I went back to the hotel, not to spy or rehash, but because I had a meeting nearby and needed a quiet place to regroup. I sat in the lobby, the same couch where Louise once stood, trembling with truth. No one noticed me, no whispers, no recognition, just another woman with a laptop and a latte. I watched people check in, couples, families, solo travelers, each of them unaware that this place once cracked open my marriage, and yet, here it was, still open for business, still polished and indifferent. That's when it hit me. Places don't hold memories. We do, and we can choose what to carry. I closed the laptop, finished my drink, and left without ceremony. That night, I visited Danny. She handed me the ring box like it was radioactive. "You sure?" she asked. "Very." We walked to the edge of her balcony. I opened the box, looked at the metal one last time, then I dropped it into the potted plant beside the railing. Soil caught it, buried it halfway. I didn't dig it out. I didn't stage a ritual. I just let it stay lost. "You're not going to pawn it?" Danny asked. "No value in pretending it was ever mine." She poured us each a glass of wine. We toasted to nothing specific, just being here. Some closures don't end with doors, they end with no need to walk through again. Weeks later, I hosted dinner at my condo. New paint, new table, same Danny, and now a few other friends, real ones, the kind who show up early and stay late and don't flinch when your laugh gets too loud. We made pasta, told terrible stories, danced barefoot to old songs. No one mentioned the past. That was the victory. At the end of the night, while rinsing wine glasses, Danny said, "You feel different. Because I'm not editing myself anymore. Takes guts, takes years, but you made it." I smiled. Not a performance smile, just the kind that arrives without effort. "Yeah," I said. I did. In the days that followed, I deleted the backup files, erased the USB, burned the envelope with the old receipts. Not out of rage, but because the evidence had already done its job. I didn't need to keep holding proof of what I already lived through. Healing isn't just closure, it's refusal. I refused to carry what wasn't mine anymore. I refused to shrink in rooms where I used to disappear. I refused to answer texts from people who only reached out once the drama was over. I refused to be polite at the expense of being real. And slowly, the world stopped feeling like something I had to survive. It started to feel like something I could choose again. I made a list in a new journal. Cities I want to visit, things I want to learn, recipes I want to master. None of them included a man. Not yet, maybe not ever. Love is not a cure, but I still believe in connection. I believe in people who look you in the eye and don't flinch when you ask for the truth. I believe in women who don't apologize for asking better questions. I believe in starts that don't require someone else's ending. I believe in mornings. And I believe in names that belong only to me. Monica Ellis. Once a title. Now a woman. The story didn't end with him, it started with me. The moment I stopped waiting for someone else to turn the page.